Hello! Over the several years of running the Cruising the Cut YouTube channel, I've had a few requests from people to show my editing workflow, and it's not something I ever want to put on Cruising the Cut because that channel is strictly all about narrowboats and canals, not the nerdy bit of actually editing, but this channel is perfect for it. However, I don't have a current canal video to edit, but I have just filmed a new campervan video. So what I'm going to do is take you through how I would edit a campervan video, and the process is much the same. There are some differences which I'll come to during the edit, and hopefully that will be of equivalent interest. The footage was filmed on both a DJI Osmo action camera and also the Sony ZV-1 camera, and I've already taken that footage and put it onto the laptop, and now I will start up my editing program, and I'll start up a screen recorder so you can see what I'm doing. The program I'm using to edit is Magix Vegas Pro 18. I've been using it for about 21 years. Back in the days it started off as Sonic Foundry Vegas, then it became Sony Vegas, and about 3 years ago it was bought up by Magix, a German company, so now it's Magix Vegas. I am just so used to this software that even though there are some things that drive me up the wall with it, it's very quick for me to be able to get things done. Sometimes I edit stuff in DaVinci Resolve. I've got a full copy of DaVinci Resolve Studio 17 is their version now, but this one I'll do in Vegas because it's what I have used for most of my stuff. So let's get Vegas up and running and the screen recorder up and running, and I'll show you what I'm doing. This is Magix Vegas. It's pretty much like every video editor you've ever seen. There's a timeline at the bottom of the screen, there's a window at the top right so you can see what you're doing, and then there's some windows here for you to look at your files. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up, I have a stock template for my van files, so let's go into videos, YouTube, Vandemonium. Where's the van template? There we go, Vegas 18 template. Open that up, and it has a little think. And there we go, there's a basic template. You can see I've got various tracks here. The top track is blanked off at the moment and is for my titles, the thumbnails. So the top two tracks I use for creating the thumbnail for YouTube, and during editing they are muted. Then there's the little watermark, which is the vandemonium.co.uk I have at the top left of the screen. Small font, opacity is about, let's have a look, 50%. I might take that down actually. Let's take that down to about 35%. And then that just means if the video gets embedded on someone else's website, at least it's got that little watermark for it being mine. There's a group of tracks here called titles. It's only about 3 tracks, and as you can see that contains the van starting sound effect. It also contains the animated Vandemonium campervan travels, and then I have this extra track that comes in as that's playing, which says vlog number and title. So if I click on that, oh, before I do anything I need to save this as something else, otherwise I'll be saving over the template. I do that so many times. Right, let's go into van 50 and call this van 50 car park camper vanning, because that's what this is about. Right, we've given that a name. Good, so I'm not going to be overwriting the template anymore. And having clicked on the little item here, which is my title, I can now change this to vlog 50, and I'll just call it camper van. What did I just say? Car park camper vanning. That'll do for the moment. So that is that title, and then I can just minimize those tracks, get them out of the way. Next up we have a grading track. That's a color grading track which basically has magic bullet looks on it, and I have a preset look which sometimes I use and sometimes I don't. While editing I tend to turn that off because it slows everything down, so we'll just bypass that. Below that I have a B-roll track, and then a NatSot track, that's natural sound, the sound that was recorded with the B-roll. Then I have a piece to camera track and a piece to camera audio track, and I can add in more stuff as and when I need it. So in our Windows Explorer, let's get out of Amazon Prime and go into YouTube, Vandemonium, Van 50. There are all the files that I recorded. All the ones on the ZV-1 starting with a C and all the Osmo ones starting with a DJI. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring them into the project by selecting them all, right-clicking. For some reason this causes it to have a little think. I don't know why. You just select all the files and it has a little think before you can then do anything. Right, there we go. Add to project media list. This just tells Vegas I want to use these in my project, and down the bottom of the screen it is now building the audio peaks so that you can see what the audio looks like once you drag the files to the timeline. This is a tedious process and it just sits there, as you can see, going through file 26, 27. Oops, come on, there we go. Let us wait till it has done that. Right, it's finished building the peaks. Now the next thing, the tedious thing we need to do, is build some proxies for these files. The trouble with Vegas is, well, twofold. Firstly, it's not very good at playing back 4K files. It'll manage it, but once you start editing them, it gets a bit sluggish. But also, I find it crashes if I edit using the raw 4K files. And it just can't seem to handle them. It has memory problems, and after you've done a few edits you'll suddenly get a total lockup. The only way to avoid this and to make the playback performance smoother is to create these proxies, which are lower resolution files. So instead of being 4K, they're 1280 by 720, so low resolution HD files. And this, like building the sound peaks, takes a while. So right click, create video proxy, and what it does is it just makes a version of each file that is a low res, low bitrate version, and you edit using those, and then when you render out at the end it automatically switches back to the full 4K versions. This locks up the computer for about 10 minutes or so, so again, make a cup of tea time. Righty-ho, well I left the computer doing that while I had some lunch, because it does take a while to create those proxies, particularly when you have as many files as I did. It was about 40 minutes or so. But having created those, the computer will now run a lot smoother, and if it crashes it'll be for some other reason rather than it having a problem with footage. Now, the good thing about a campervan video, and the same is true of my Cruising the Cut cruising videos, is that everything happens in the order it was shot. Because if you do a day out in the van or you do cruising the boat, it's this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened. So I can just stick all the stuff down on the timeline in the order it was shot, and the story is told. In the little documentary videos I do occasionally, it's a whole different kettle of fish, because I'll have interviews that were shot at different times, I'll have footage of whatever I'm talking about, and I then have to mix them all around to work out how best to tell the story. But for the van videos and the cruising videos, it just all gets slapped down on the timeline. So I have sorted the clips here by the date when they were last modified, which is effectively the date they were shot, and I can now select them all and drop them in on the timeline, and I will put them all in on the piece to camera track, because a lot of them were pieces to camera. Now, having just said I can put everything down where I wanted, I did start this video by shooting some bits out of sequence. And the other thing I'm going to have to do, and this is my own stupid fault, the time on both the DJI Osmo and the Sony ZV-1, the time and date were not set the same. The Osmo is about 26 minutes either ahead of or behind the ZV-1. So having put all the clips down on the timeline, any that were the shot on the Osmo are 26 minutes out of order. So I'm going to have to go through now just manually, and anywhere where there's an Osmo clip that is within 26 minutes of the clip before it, if that clip before it was on the ZV-1, I need to swap them round. I hope that makes sense. If I just remembered to set the time on the Osmo and the ZV-1, even within a few seconds of each other before I started filming, I wouldn't have to do this bit. But I do, and it's going to be a bit tedious. It is some time later. These things always take longer than you imagine. Just a lot of fiddling about to try and get everything in order. But everything on the timeline is now, I think, in the correct chronological order, so I can actually start editing it. For If I put my cursor at the end of the timeline, it is 1 hour, 2 minutes and 57 seconds and 23 frames of footage. So an hour's worth of footage which needs to be chopped down to about 15. Given that in these videos, I'm a bit lazy, I'll confess, on the campervan videos. I do the commentary as I'm filming. So every time I point the camera I say, this is what's going on, which means that nearly all of those clips have a bit of me talking about something. So it may not be feasible, other than taking out just really boring stuff, it may not be feasible to chop that down from an hour to 15 minutes. It might end up as 2 vlogs. Sometimes that happens. The first thing I'm going to do though is select all the clips, select events to end. And one of the marvellous things about this Vegas software is that for years and years and years, I can't remember when they first brought it in, but it must have been about 2003, 2004, you've been able to write scripts to do things for you. If Vegas doesn't do a thing for you, and if you know how to program in JavaScript or C#, which I don't, but lots of other people do, you can write little programs that tell Vegas to do things, and it's way more advanced than just macros. Macros just record key presses and can be a bit limited. With scripts, you are literally writing little extensions to Vegas that can do all kinds of things. I say you, again, not me, cleverer people than I. And there are all kinds of little scripts to do all kinds of little things. So, for example, here I've just selected all those clips, and what I always find at the beginning of my clips is there's a little wobble because it's me pressing the record button, and at the end of my clips there's a little wobble because it's me pressing the record button. So I have a single thing here which is a little script someone's written called trim frames, and if I click that, it says, well, how many frames do you want to trim off the beginning in each clip? I want 25, which is a second at the start, and 25 at the end. So okay. And instantly, if I zoom in, you'll see... Oh, balls. I didn't select the audio as well. Right, undo that. Which will give it pause to consider. I forgot to select the audio track. Right, there we go. So, select that. Select events to end. Trim frames, 25, 25, go. And you can see it's now trimmed 25 frames off the beginning and end of each clip. I will still need to do more trimming, but that just cuts out that initial wobble where I was pressing record. And then if I click in the middle here and do close gaps, brings everything back together again. So now I have something I can start working on. I'll need to do sound and pictures, and a lot of this was quite dark because it was in the camper van, so I'll need to muck about with making it all look pretty. But let's go to the beginning just after the titles are finished. There we go, and bring in the first thing, which was
socks.
Me saying socks. So we'll bring a little fade up as I always do.
Socks. Pants.
Yes, right.
And toothpaste.
Close the bag, trim that clip to the end, and bring the next one up, which is a piece to camera by me.
Let's have a campervan adventure.
Starts opening the door. Now notice I start opening the door, and I want to... Oh, hang on, this is out of sequence. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. I wanted that bit. There we go. Let's put that in there. There's going to be a lot of this.
Brush and toothpaste.
Zip the bag up. Open the campervan door, which I might start a little earlier, and then I think I got a shot of me throwing the bag in. Yes, I did. So, open the door. Let's make that a bit quicker. I want this a little fast cut sequence, so that could go a bit quicker as well.
Paste.
Zip, open door, throw in bag. Then there's me saying,
let's have a campervan adventure.
Start opening the door. Now I thought I had a shot of me getting in. Yes, I do. Here I've set the camera up on the hill, and there should be a shot of me getting in, albeit from a distance. There we go. Right, let's make that a little bit bigger so I can actually see what I'm doing. And we need to kind of match that in. So just starting to open the door there. Open, get in, shut the door. Oh, I'm taking too long faffing about. So we'll just cut it with get in. Right, so we'll have that bit there. Then we've got the bit where I turn the ignition key. We'll have it on the actual starting sound. That'll do. It's a shame it didn't focus terribly well on that. Never mind. We'll have a bit of that, and then I had the dials, didn't I? So that's where it starts up. Trying to synchronise that up with the turning of the key. That sound is the sound. So I'm matching those two up with the sound of the engine starting. There we go, that works. Right, and a second or two of that. And we don't need both copies of the engine starting. Oh yes, obviously we do. Right. Good. Or I suppose I could extend that one actually, couldn't I? For a better sound. Yeah, let's just trim that off. So there we go, and I might as well actually drop that down onto there. So now we've got a little starts the car. Good. And hopefully I say
Van adventure.
Opens the door, gets in, starts the van up. Let's bring everything down. This little button at the bottom that I keep clicking here turns on the ripple trim, and the ripple trim means that while you've got that on, everything on the timeline moves. If you turn that off, just the individual clips move. So when I want to shift everything up, I use that. Right, let's bring that down. The trouble with this ripple trim is it does seem to be associated with occurrences of... Oh look, I did it again. I did a second take of getting in because I knew it would be quicker. Never mind. Where's the one where I drive off? There we go. So we start the van. And I think we'll bring that in a bit quicker. Driving off. There we go. This is a little gag sequence where I drive from one end of the car park to the other. And pause. Now I think I'm going to get away with just trimming this bit till I... There we go. I start coming out the van. And there's me coming out the side of the van. And then I did a catch-up bit. There we go. Coming round. There we go.
Yes, this'll do nicely.
Right, blah, blah, blah. Talking to camera.
In the van, in the car park, experiencing that camping life without going anywhere.
End that piece to camera. Now then, while we're thinking about it, I recorded the bits on the ZV-1 with my Deity V-Mic D4 Duo. It's a mic that points forwards and backwards, so some parts of the sound where I'm talking to camera on it, it's on one channel, and sometimes I'm talking behind the camera, it's on the other channel. So I will need to, if I don't want me coming out left and right of the stereo, I will need to... that's on the Osmo, it's both channels. That's on the Osmo. Right, this one, for example, you can see I'm talking, but it's only coming out on the left channel. So I want to say use only the left channel.
Ah, yes, this'll do nice.
And then I'm coming out on both sides of the recording. So all I'm going to do now is go through the whole timeline, just trimming up the beginning and ends of the clips and making them just slot together properly in time sequence. So I will stop talking and just crack on with that. When I have sections like this where I'm cooking, or I've just let the camera run while I do something, I often want to just squeeze them up a bit, because it would be very boring if I just let it run in real time. So there are bits where I'm talking and bits where I'm just doing stuff. So this section here, I'm just taking the wrap off the cheese, and Vegas is very good at this. You select the end, hold down Control, shift this sideways, and that's turned it into a speeded up section. And the only thing you have to watch for is that, yeah, you see it's done it there. Here's the frame boundary, and it will sometimes compress it off a frame boundary, which is never quite good. So let's just put that back where it should be, on the frame join. And that whole little sequence is now me taking the plastic off the pizza.
Let's not waste any of this valuable cheese.
Rather quicker. And I'm not sure if I said anything else useful in this, but no, it looks like I was just mucking about. So
Valuable cheese.
So after I say valuable cheese, I'll split that clip again and go all the way around until, what am I saying here? Nothing. Still just
Big as a ridge monkey. I'll have to take, and then I'll have to take, yeah, I think half.
So that's me mulling stuff over. That can all do with being compressed, so let's squeeze that up. I might, if I need to, look, it's done it again. I wish it would only compress up to frame boundaries. It's very annoying. So there's me mucking around. I can speed this up even more if I want to, but I'll do that as an initial.
Yeah, I think half, and then I'll have to take a bit off it.
Right, so there's me just... where am I talking again?
Just the top needs to come off to make it.
Oh, dear me.
Just the top needs to come off to make it fit, I think.
Wise words, sage advice.
Leave those bits there for the moment, and get the.
I don't really think all this of me putting the tomatoes on the pizza. I think we can.
Okay.
I think we can get rid of me saying okay, and then we can take the whole of that sequence and shove it up. Oh no, hang on.
Just the top needs to come off to make it fit, I think.
Right. I'll compress that sequence. And then just go back to cutting as before.
First of all.
Here's a silly little example of some of the conveniences that make Vegas such a joy to edit with. And remember, it's been like this for about 20 years. It always had these features, where a lot of other editing programs are only recently bringing these in and hailing them as great innovations. And the thing is, if I want to fade out or fade in the end of this clip, I can just put my cursor on the end till it changes to that little symbol and drag it in, and it gives me a fade out. There we go, that's a second's worth of fade out. It's a really simple thing, but other editors are now going, oh look, we've got this magic thing where you can fade out. Vegas has been like that for years. Other editors, you have to go to the transitions effects menu and drag a transition onto the end and muck about with it. It's these little things that Vegas has had since it was invented that have made it such a great editor.
Yeah. So I will stick the light out, and I will bid you good night. See you in the morning.
Same with a fade in on this one. There we go, let's have a second's worth of fade in. Look at me pretending to be asleep. I'll show you another little thing that Vegas has always been good at. That I remember I used to get terribly frustrated when I worked at ITV and we used Avid's Media Composer. at any point where the software was doing anything, you couldn't touch it. If you touched it, it would either crash or it just wouldn't let you change anything. So you couldn't be playing what you'd done back while you then altered things. Vegas, not a problem. I can play the timeline back,
called,
and I can
kid you
trim
not,
bits,
Little Willies.
change things around, move things. It doesn't mind.
Yes.
I mean, okay, it occasionally crashes, but in essence, you can have it playing stuff while you edit it, which is actually really useful. Having it play stuff and then you have to go stop, then change, then play again. Oh, it used to drive me up the wall with Media Composer, and it's just one of those things that Vegas has always been good at. It's a very intuitive editor. It looks like a Windows program, which a lot of people say makes it look old-fashioned because it ought to be some funky user interface, which awful idea. The great thing about this is you think, well, I'd like to pick that and move it here. So you point your mouse at it and move it, and it does it. You want to move the tracks around? Point and click the track and drag it up to where you want it. It's all very, very obvious. Other things, I mean, Resolve. I use Resolve. You want to move the order of the tracks around? Click on a track, right-click it, select Move Track Up again, move track up. Oh, good grief. It's painful. It really is, some of these other editing software. And Vegas has just always been flexible and good. And if only it was faster at playing stuff back and didn't have so many weird crashes, particularly when you're trying to edit 4K footage, it would be perfect. Now, the developers, they're on the case. They're a small team. They do respond to people reporting bugs at them. But I wish I could throw handfuls of money at them to give them more software engineers to fix the little things that drive me mad, because it is such an underrated program in many ways, Vegas. Everyone talks about Final Cut or Premiere or Resolve, all of which have their good and bad points, but Vegas has always seemed like a bit of an outsider, but I really do enjoy using it, apart from the little frustrations. So I need to win a massive lottery win and then throw handfuls of money at them to fix these things, I think. Okay, I have reached the end of the footage and I have trimmed and chopped and speeded some bits up, and we've turned the hour and 3 minutes, was it, down to 34 minutes and 17 seconds, which is still, frankly, too long. And I'm not sure whether I want to turn it into 2 videos, because the problem with that is, well, where do you cut them? Because there's not always a convenient cut point. One can end up being 20 minutes, the other one being 10. Or shall I simply speed up the speeded up sections a bit more? Because, for example, this section of me making the bed, that's 40 seconds, plus another 20 seconds. I mean, a minute of me making the bed is ridiculous. I can speed that up. And there's some bits here. Well, no, those aren't speeded up. That's me doing a tour of it. So there's some umming and ahhing to do usually at this point, where I try and think, right, I've cut the obvious stuff away. Now, how do I trim that down? And am I going to trim it down to 2 times 15 or 1 20-minute or something like that? And the answer at the moment is I don't know. Let's have a look around the 15-minute mark. You see, I just got up and had my shower. At 14.5 minutes, I was just getting up on, and about to have my breakfast. That's not a good place to start dividing it. I could split it at 17 minutes, because I have actually put a little fade in there already. I just had my breakfast. Actually, I could do that.
Look at that sky.
I could make that part 2. So we'd go from 17 to 30. Actually, that's perfect, isn't it? That's smack in the middle. Right, I think that's what I will do then. I'll make this into 2 17-minute videos. And the way I will do that is I will take this project file with the lot in it, and I'll just save it straight away as Van51, Car Park Campervanning Part 2. So now we're editing Part 2, which means I can delete everything before that point. So let's select everything. Come on. Ah. Delete all of that. And then everything up to that point. What's that? Oh, that's some B-roll. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Because of course it'll still be in the original version of the project file. So now everything in this one is part 2, which I will do another day. Let's bring all of that up to the start. Oops. Not that far. Oh, blasted. I've copied too much. Let's move that way. Move that way. Move that up to there. And then the next video... Oops, not including that one. The next video will start, so there we go. Like that.
Look at that sky.
Great. Right, let's close that one down and forget about 51 now. Go back to 50 and trim off all the second half of it, leaving me only the first 17 minutes. Good. I just think 34 minutes is too long. I never have much patience to watch videos that long on YouTube. And now the good thing about doing it this way is I can just go select everything to the end, delete, and so yeah, we'll end with me having had my breakfast. And I'll put a little thing there. Let's go to the media generator, titles. Oh, hello, look, that's a bug. No, there we go. There they are. They weren't showing up. Let's have a standard title. I'll put that on. Look, I even have a track called titles. Oh no, that's my title sequence, isn't it? Let's put it there. Why don't I have a captions track? I don't know. I'm going to add a captions track. Insert video track. I'll put it up there, and we'll call it captions. And let's put that there. To be continued ... in the time-honoured manner. And we'll make that a bit smaller. We'll put a little fade at the beginning. 1 second. To be continued. I mean, the tension is just surely unbearable. Man eats his breakfast. To be continued. Who wouldn't be hanging on the edge of their seat for part 2 of that? Truly, this is how to win at YouTube. Right. Now, I'll just pull over the watermark so it covers the entire duration of the video. Actually, don't I normally have a little out thing at the end? Oh, there it is, look. The one that just says my Twitter and Instagram handles. There we go. So that'll be there. And let's pull that to... Let's fade that out with that. So the watermark fades out with the to be continued. And then we just get my Twitter and Instagram at the end. Right. Good. Now, I've sort of sorted out the audio in one respect as I was going, and then I've picked whichever channel of the microphone I want to use. But there's a bit here where I went to the shops, and for some reason I didn't record any voiceover saying I'm going to the shops. So I can either now record one sentence saying, "At this point, I decided to go to the shops." That will sound very out of context with everything else which was recorded in camera, so I might just put a caption on screen for that as well, actually. So let's drag down a new caption and say, "I decided to go to get some food, some food," and we'll make that a bit smaller, and we'll put it down at the bottom. Yeah, about there. Going. So blah 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 blah. I decided to go and get some food. That's probably long enough for that caption. Right, that takes care of that. What was I saying? Audio, yes, audio. The levels are all over the place, so I shall select all the audio events, and I've got a shortcut set up for this. Control Q will normalise everything, which will generally be far too loud. So I will A, bring everything down while I've still got everything selected by a couple of dB. Why does it never go to exactly... There we go. And I'll also bring the whole track down by a couple of dB. And I tend to bring the master down by about 3. The whole point of bringing all these down is that when they mix with other sounds, if I do put any other sounds in, the overall volume won't be too loud. And
This'll do nicely. What a splendid spot.
oh yeah, look at that.
For the self.
I should also point out, as on my template, I do have on the audio the wave hammer compressor, which I find is, I mean, it's a, in a sense, it's a hammer, it's a blunt tool. You slap wave hammer on and it just sort of levels everything out of its own accord. It's quite magical. I'm sure compression purists would hate me for doing it, but rather than faff about going through all the different levels, it doesn't half make life easier. And I mean, it's a vlog. It doesn't need to be Hollywood crafted audio, it just needs to be audible. I know that when I'm sitting watching a vlog on my iPad, the main thing I want is audibility. I'm not looking for super duper sound mixes that people have spent years perfecting. Just audible would do.
Socks. Pants.
That's a way to start a video, isn't it?
T-shirts.
The thought of my pants.
Sweater. Toothbrush and toothpaste.
But that's good, clear audio, isn't it? I will, however, I'll take some of these shots which are background shots where you really don't want the wave hammer applied to the sound so much.
Let's have a campervan adventure.
And I will just go through now and listen to them all and make sure it's not too loud, because like that was a bit loud.
Let's have...
Yeah, a bit loud. Alright, steady on, old boy.
Toothbrush and toothpaste.
Zip. Door. Bag.
Let's have a campervan adventure.
See, that one's way too loud, having normalised it, because that is just background sound, so I'll pull that right down. And in fact, the whole of that ought to be up there anyway. And that one, likewise, ought to come up. Ah, if I could select the whole thing. But we do want to hear that, because it's the sound of the engine starting. That's alright. And then, again, same with that one, I ought to put that onto that track as well. Come on. Once I have set all these levels, what I also like to do is put a little 1 second dissolve between these, because it just smooths out that transition. The trouble with not smoothing out the audio is that when you're editing, what you really don't want is the viewer noticing the edits. If the viewer is noticing that there are edits, then you've lost them from being involved in the story. So really, you want them to be in and just not even realise that things have changed. And the trouble with an abrupt audio cut is it's a very obvious clue to the viewer that something has changed. So if you just put a little dissolve on them, it just smooths over the whole change of the picture by smoothing out the audio. And I'll do the same with these ones, so I'll typically pull that way a bit and fade it up, and I'll bring that one that way a bit and I'll fade it down, and then you get this little crossfade, so it's not quite as abrupt between the shots. And that was a little technique taught to me by very early days of my time at Meridian. One of the editors there, because back in the good old days they actually employed editors to cut the stories. Later on, they made us shoot and edit everything ourselves. We literally went out with camera and laptop and did the whole lot. But to start with, you'd bring your footage back and take it into an edit suite. And it was one of the editors taught me this little trick about putting the dissolves on.
Let's have
It just makes it sound a little
a
nicer.
campervan adventure.
You see, you listen to that, so it goes, and that background sound comes in really, really suddenly. Whereas if I just dissolve them, it just makes it slightly nicer. I mean, that wasn't a particularly good example. I think I've got that too loud. Yeah, that's slightly better. And I might turn that up, actually. Anyway, I shall carry on again through the whole timeline, just sorting out the audio, and later on I'll worry about whether the pictures need any tweaking. Some of them are quite dark, and stabilising and things like that. So let's just crack on with the audio. I am not a huge fan of transitions other than the straight cut between two scenes, or, particularly on the cruising videos on the boat, a nice slow dissolve between two bits. But just occasionally, and particularly on the campervan videos, there's a lot of bits where time has elapsed, so I'm quite partial to a clock wipe, and I probably shouldn't use them as much as I do, but I must have put it in my favourites. There we go. It just indicates that a little bit of time has gone by.
Right. It's a few minutes later. That is.
I might take the right out of that, actually, see if I can get rid of that.
I'll shove the pizza in.
It's a few minutes later. That is now warm.
Better. And I might just move the audio a little bit so that the...
It's a few minutes later. That is...
Good. Right. Yes, I probably overused the clock wipe, but it's pretty much the only transition I use other than cut or dissolve. The occasional swish pan every now and again. I just find transitions generally, again, interrupt the flow for me, for my taste. I mean, they obviously have their place. Look at Top Gear as an example. There, everything's very stylised and glitchy, and it's part of the look of the programme, but it doesn't work on my cruising videos where it's all very ambling and gentle, and it doesn't really work for the campervan stuff, because I'm not a sort of riotous campervanning sort of person. Mine is a gentle amble with the campervan, so all the style of the video reflects that. Having messed about with the sound levels and got things, I'm roughly happy with them. I'm now just going to run through each of the images and have a look at whether it's too dark, too light, whether it's too contrasty, not contrasty enough. Maybe I'll need to, if I was holding the camera wonky, I'll need to, straighten things up a bit. Just generally nicen the images a little bit. For example, this first one here, the bag is a little bit dark. So I might try and brighten that up a fraction. And then there are other ones where, I don't know, I can't find one offhand, but I'll just go through and refine. Now for this I will turn on my colour grading track, which normally goes a bit extreme. Actually, it works quite well on the boat channel, but it's not quite so good on the van channel, so I sometimes have to dial it down. I'll also put this onto best quality, and while doing that, the software is not using the proxy files anymore, it's using the original, so we are properly looking at the proper quality versions of whatever I'm about to tweak the colours on. And admittedly, I'm tweaking the colours just on my laptop screen, not a fully colour calibrated monitor, That's because I do not have a laptop with a super high quality display or a broadcast standards super high quality monitor to look at things on. But I do the best I can with the gear I have got. It would be lovely to load up the boat with proper filming and editing gear, but that's very expensive and complete overkill. Anyway, so now I'll just go through all the shots and tweak the colours. Right, I've been going at it now fairly solidly for a few hours, and you start to get picture blindness and sound blindness after just watching it again and again and again. But I've been through and done the basic sound mix and the basic colour correction of the pictures, so what I find it useful to do now is just render out a finished file as version 1, and I will just stop now for the day, come back to that tomorrow and view it with fresh eyes and watch that finished rendered out sequence, make any little notes of bits that are too loud, too quiet, shots that look odd, and then go back in and finish those off. So I will just set this rendering now as if we were done and dusted and just finishing off the file to send up to YouTube, but this will just be a first test render. And I have presets all set up for the rendering to use, so we're using H.265, we'll put it in the project location, I'll probably call it first test render, and we'll use the UHD 4K setting I have set up. So let's let that go, and that will just chug away to itself. Right, come back tomorrow. Hello, it is the next day, and the plan for now is to have a look at that rendered file, just literally put it into the editing software and play it back as if I were a viewer, looking out for any glitches, sound problems, colour problems, anything that just shouts out, oh, that needs a fix. I've thought of one thing overnight, which is that since I split the vlog into 2 parts, I should probably have added part 1 on the beginning title of this one. So I'll probably have to re-render this. There's always something crops up when you first have a look at a video, so let's just click around and get this going and play it back.
Socks, pants, t-shirts, sweater, toothbrush and toothpaste. Let's have a campervan adventure.
Okay, that was mostly alright. Couple of little changes I want to do to little bits of volume. Sometimes I was a little bit loud, sometimes a little bit quiet. I think I noticed a little glitch on one of the time-lapse sequences, and there are a couple of tiny changes I want to make to the captions. So I shall go back into the project file. Don't need to save that because that was just playing back the rendered version. And I've never understood why it takes so long to open a project file, when really the project file is just a load of references to cut this there and cut that there and stick this file with this file. It's not really doing anything in a way. And also I don't understand why it rebuilds the sound peaks, because it's already built them, because they were built when I was editing the project, yet it rebuilds them. It's very odd. It's got a mind of its own, this program. Anyway, let's go back to the beginning and make that little tweak to the title. So I'm going to make that say Car Park Campervanning Part 1. Yes. The other thing I wanted was on the titles track. There we go. He's EV Man UK. Not EV Man, he's EV Man UK. That's fine. Now then, let's have a little look through for any of my little time-lapse sequences. Filling up the water, getting the food, watching a bit of YouTube, opening up the ridge monkey, One of these shots with the pizza looked overly yellow, which I think is a result of the lighting, but I may not worry about it because right, that's okay. That's okay. Just looking for, just checking it's put all these speeded up sections. Ah, now you see it hasn't on that one. On a proper frame boundary. Now, did that muck up anything before that? Yes. Right. That's better. Was that speeded up? No. There was also a shot where I thought it needed to be turned round a bit. Ah, now this was the speeded up one where it seemed to glitch. I think I went past the end of the clip and then the clip started up again because it... Oh yeah, there we go. Look, there's me talking to the camera and then there's me actually talking to the camera. So I need to bring that back. Glitch, 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 glitch. Where are you? Now, there. I moved down there, so we need to shift everything up. There we go, that's better. So, time-lapse, 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 piece to camera. Shots nobody ever really wants to see. Me in bed. Is it this one? Yes. This time-lapse sequence is slightly wonky. Let's just straighten that up a bit. Oh, it really was wonky, wasn't it? Right, nearly there. All I need to do now is just nip through the file once more and level out the sound. I might put something else on the end caption because to be continued. Not terribly. I mean, there I am eating my breakfast. Perhaps I should put some sort of teaser for in part 2. But then, to be frank, nothing really happened in part 2 either. Good, that'll be fine. Right, let's go through and do all the sound. What I sometimes do when I'm doing the sound is turn all the video tracks off because it makes the computer play everything back a lot smoother, and it also means I then concentrate on the sound instead of getting distracted by looking at my own pictures. So
Socks. Pants.
that could have been a bit louder.
T-shirts. Let's have a campervan adventure.
That was then a bit loud.
Let's have a campervan adventure.
Don't know what that click is on lying. I think my... Oh look, you can see it in the top. Look, there it is. That little click.
This was just lying.
Click there. Let's get rid of that. I don't know what it was. Maybe just my mouth made a click. Right, there's a couple of ways I could get rid of that. Let's do it the quick and dirty way, which is just split that.
It's lying.
That'll do.
It's just lying.
Again, one of the things about Vegas that makes it so convenient is when you split an audio track, it has a setting where it will automatically put a little tiny fade down to 0 and fade up again. It's tiny, it's tiny. You can't even really hear it when it plays it back. But what that avoids is that if you just cut audio and stick two bits together, sometimes you get a crackle at the join, this nasty pop, because one waveform ends like here and then the next one starts here. That join just makes a horrible sound. So Vegas automatically sticks in a tiny drop to 0 on every audio transition, which is so small you don't hear it, but it stops that nasty crackling.
The device was just lying because...
And that's taken that click out as well. And just another little useful feature of this program. These chitter chatter bits I'm not too worried in a way about the volume being a bit off on them, because you can see in the shot that I'm sitting at the back of the van and I'm concentrating on something else while I'm chatting, so it almost makes sense that the audio isn't perfect, because I'm clearly not presenting to camera as such. It's more just the camera picking up me chatting
solely on the lowest heat.
as I'm doing something.
Washing up to do.
Actually, that was a bit long. 5 seconds was a bit long. I might make that 4 seconds. I just felt that caption was on screen a little bit too long. There we go. I've got this shortcut, keyboard shortcut. What is it? Control-Shift-O turns the clip durations on and off. It's very useful. And Control-Shift-I gives me the title of each clip. And it's, again, very configurable, this program. You can assign shortcuts to all the things you want to do. And
well, hark at my lovely linen.
all right, steady on, boy.
Yeah.
Right, that is the sound done. Let's remember to turn the video tracks back on again. That's a classic mistake. Let's make sure that watermark, as I've trimmed a couple of clips, have to make sure that ends in the right place, which is there. And everything else is switched on and okay, and I will now render that out again, this time as my probably full and final render. Again, I do tend to still watch the rendered file once more over, just to be absolutely sure, because sometimes you get weird rendering glitches for no readily apparent reason. You'll get little flash frames or green bits. It's computers. So I always do watch the file for a final time before I upload it to YouTube. Now, I didn't quite finish messing about with the audio on these, did I? No, I didn't. Look, I have not finished. Thought I hadn't. Doing some of those little transitions. Put some little dissolves on those. Oh, shame on me, I didn't do any of these. Oh, see, this is why it's good to review your project. See what you've forgotten. I do like to spend time fiddling with the audio, but it is incredibly fiddly. It's one of those things that it will improve a video no end.
There we go.
But it doesn't half take up time. Right, that's done. That's done. How about those ones? Yes, did those. That one did that. That one did that. Did that. Right, I really think that is ready to go now, so I will set that rendering. Render as, I'm going to optimistically call it the final file name. So, we're doing same as yesterday, same settings, project location, car park, campervanning, go. Right, and that'll take about 40 minutes or so, I think. It's a 16-minute vlog. And it takes a little while to decide how long it's going to take to render, but I'm going to guess 40 minutes. It's 45 minutes later. The computer just made its little doo-doo noise, which means it's finished rendering, so I will now sit and watch that back. If it is all okay, I can then upload it to YouTube, and while it uploads to YouTube, I will make a little thumbnail image for the video. Okay, I've watched that through and I'm happy with it, so I can now upload the file to YouTube. So I've logged into the YouTube Studio, which is where you upload all your files from. And let's go to Van 50. There it is. And it asks you some questions, like what you want to call it. I can't remember what I call it. Do I just put a number on the van ones? There's one way to find out. youtube.com/vandemonium. There we go. Right, videos. There we go, just a number and then a title. Right, so 50 full stop. A weekend in the camper van in a car park! Exclamation mark. Add a little description. Being unable to stay away from home overnight at present due to lockdown restrictions. Let's not put the word coronavirus in there. YouTube starts flagging it all up as It's something that they've got this thing where people are putting misinformation out, and so if you put coronavirus or COVID in your videos, it flags it up or something. Anyway, so hopefully it won't do the same for lockdown. Due to lockdown restrictions, I decided to have, if I could type, have a weekend away in the van in the car park at my usual address. Oh, I'll just put in the car park. This is part one of that exciting tale. I hope people realise the sarcasm that I'm writing into most of this stuff. I suspect some people don't get it. Now, I did also show clips of EV Man UK, so other YouTube I watched in this video. EV Man UK and Car Throttle. Not that Car Throttle need any push from me. Right, let's find EV Man UK. There we go, Electric Vehicle Man. Ah. I wonder if he's EV Man or Electric Vehicle Man. See, I never liked to refer to these channels with their the horrible number that YouTube give them. Let's see if he's EV Man UK. No. Oh, it would help if I could spell Vehicle Man. There we go. So whatever I just said there, YouTube/Electric Vehicle Man. https://youtube.com.
Hi guys, I'm EVM and welcome to a very windy North York.
Shush. Electric Vehicle Man. Right, having typed that, double check it. Yep. And also presumably youtube.com/car, not car throttle, although cat throttle would be a good channel. Not throttling cats, I just mean, yeah, there we go, car throttle. Right, give them a little mention since I did put 4 seconds of each of them in the video, which hopefully won't give me a copyright strike. There we go. Right, thumbnail. Now, thumbnail. I'm very bad at doing YouTube thumbnails, and yet they are crucial to getting your video to stand out. If you think of the YouTube homepage, with all those videos suggested, you really need an eye-catching thumbnail. This is why all the boating channels tend to use scantily clad women in their bikinis, because they know that you... or maybe that's just me. But it's not really something I can use on the van channel, although maybe I should. Maybe that's what I should be doing. But I need some sort of eye-catching thumbnail. And what I tend to do is I don't have Photoshop or any of the Adobe applications. I'm rubbish in all the other photo editing apps, so I just use the editing program. It can put pictures together, and I create my thumbnails in the editing program. Right, car park camper vanning. I just have a couple of spare tracks at the top of the timeline, which are normally muted, and one of them is a text track with the words of whatever the title of the thumbnail is, and then the second one is the image that I will use, which I can stretch and move around and add to a bit if I want to. Come along, program, hurry up. Right, there we go. So a couple of tracks at the top which are normally just muted. So I'll unmute them. We'll get a media generator in on the top. My default, there we go. That's some words. Now, what am I going to call this? Well, probably just car park camper vanning. Make that a bit bigger. Make it bold. Bigger still. Hello, why is that not showing up properly? Yes, there we go. Right, let's stick that over there. I don't know why, but for some reason the titles tool in Vegas seems to consume an awful lot of processor power. You can probably hear the fans whirring on the laptop, and it goes very sluggish. I don't know why. Just that simple thing of putting some text on the screen seems to give it huge problems. Now what do we need here? We need a shot of the van in the car park, which I do have, don't I? Do we want me next to the... Oh, let's have one with me in it. I'm not... That's not ego. I have a suspicion that putting a face in a thumbnail works better than just a thing in a thumbnail. I think viewers occasionally like to see who they're dealing with. I may be wrong. It's a bit of a guess. Right, we'll just open that in the trimmer. We'll find that frame. One frame of me looking like a clown. That's just my natural face. Right, we will take just that video frame and I'll just freeze it so I can drag it out a bit. There we go. Ah, that's not so good. Right, shall we move that down? And then perhaps, because the thumbnail will be smaller than the resolution of the original file, I can move this around a bit without worrying about it being too small, too low res for the thumbnail. Yes, I think that'll do. There we go. Right, save. Another useful little thing, just one button to save a snapshot of whatever is on the screen. Lots of little useful things here in Vegas. It really is a clever program. Vandemonium 50, Van 50 thumbnail, save, and then turn those tracks off again because we don't really want them. And until you turn off, until you get rid of the media generator, it doesn't get rid of, there we go, those lines on the screen. Okay, let's go back to where we were uploading and upload thumbnail. There it is. Now it's quite big. It doesn't need to be that big for YouTube, so I just resize it in Paint. This used to be more relevant when I had very limited bandwidth, but so shrinking things down was helpful. Let's put some tags on it. Car park. Holiday. It's not really a holiday, isn't it? Vacation for our overseas friends who prefer vacation to holiday. Weekend away. That'll do. Oh, I suppose... No, that'll do. And then I like to have the comments sorted by newest first. That'll do. Yes, we'll have a bit of monetization. Thanks very much. A man needs to live. Notice that I turn off the sponsored cards and the overlay ads. The overlay ads are the ones that play if you watch back on a laptop screen. They're so annoying, those little banners that come at the bottom of a video. So I turn those off. They annoy me as a viewer, so I don't want to annoy my viewers with them. And sponsored cards I don't want. But I leave the skippable and non-skippable ones on. And I turn off the mid-roll ads. I hate mid-roll ads. Again, as a viewer, they're so annoying. And as a video creator, I don't want people watching my video to be just, you know, happily watching it, and suddenly, bam, they're taken away from it with some silly advert. So I turn those off on all my channels. Then we have this, I promise I'm not putting out dodgy videos checkbox. Oh, you never used to have to press that before. You could just go to the bottom and press none of the above. That's new. Yes, well, it's safe for ads. There's nothing dodgy on there. They must have just got wind of people just automatically clicking the none of the above, and now they're making you do an extra step. Anyway, there we go. What? This is new again. Oh, dear me. We'll check your video for any issues that may restrict its visibility or monetization. Okay, fair enough. Good. We'll make it unlisted before... I always have them unlisted to start with, so I can check if there's any problems. I don't want them going public. until they're definitely okay for copyright or whatever. Right, there's an hour and 26 minutes left. That's not too bad. It's a 4 GB file, so I will just leave that running while I go and have a spot of lunch, I think. That is chugging away nicely, albeit slowly, so while that goes up, I do one of the most tedious bits of the whole process, but it is quite vital, and that is archiving the project. And this involves renaming all the files that I shot, because they all have silly names that the camcorder gives them, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I go through every single file, give it a sensible file name describing what each clip is, and then I make an archive version of the project which goes on various portable hard disks, and then I store one of the hard disks on the boat, and then another one goes off-site, and I have other copies elsewhere as well, just in case I ever need to refer back to the footage again, and multiple copies, of course, in case anything happened to the original. So I happen to have named this first shot already, but this second one, you see, DJI 0347, so I'll just find that in the project media list, and it's me opening the camper van door, so rename opening the camper van door. And oh, I also threw the bag in, so in fact I'll rename that opening the camper van door, oops, and throwing bag inside. Bag inside. And this will take a while, and then here's me doing a piece to camera.
Let's have a camp.
Right, so find that one and rename that. Van 50 PTC. For some reason I like to put PTC in all my pieces to camera just so I can easily identify them again. Let's have an adventure. And so on until we've done every file. Righty-ho, after all the renaming, I now just sort the files by name so that I can check that I haven't missed any, and there aren't any still called C001, 002 or whatever, or DJI 123, and it looks like there aren't any. So that's good. And now I can just tell it to export the project archive. Export the archive, it has a little think. And it wants to know where to put it. We will put it on my drive there, create a little folder for it, van 50, car park, camper vanning, part 1. And shall I call it part 1 on the name? Might as well, part 1, save, and it wants to know what files to save. And I tell it to save the project file, all the media files, all the camcorder files, and don't save any files that were in the project but weren't actually used, because that's just a waste of space. So I say go, and it just copies all the files over to the little hard disk. Once it's on one hard disk, I then copy that project directory over to all the backup hard drives. It's tedious, but it needs to be done. And that is how I edit my van videos. Now I confess I am quite lazy with the van videos. It's a quick and dirty filming process, it's a fairly quick and dirty editing process. I do all the commentary on the van videos as I'm filming. So whenever I'm pointing the camera I'm saying this is what's happening, and I'll do a piece to camera and then I'll point the camera and talk again. So it's very easy to stitch it all together, and the voiceover is already in place. On the Cruising the Cut boat videos, it is a more complex process because I do write a script. The pieces to camera are off the cuff at the time of recording, but then all the shots where I'm showing ducks and bits of scenery and whatever, I will have assembled all the shots on the timeline in order, in sequence, because it is a chronological sort of story, and I will watch them back, and I'll have a copy of Word open as well as the editing program, and I'll see what the next shot is, and then I'll write a line of script, and then I'll read that line of script to make sure it fits the duration of the shot, and I'll fiddle around with it till it does, and then look at the next shot, write a line of script, next shot, write a line of script, and then at the end I go away and record that voiceover, and bring that voiceover into the editing program to drop all those bits of voice underneath the shots. But apart from that, the process is pretty much similar. Now, I have no idea whether this was in any way interesting or useful, but I have had lots of people saying, how do you edit your videos? So hopefully it was in some way interesting. Cheers now. Bye-bye.